Welcome, adventurers, LARPers, and Ren Faire enthusiasts. Today I am breaking down some of the common genres and categories of garb for different LARPs and Renaissance fairs. Let's get to it. All right, so first thing to note, I'm going to be ranking these things on 3 different categories. The first and most important category, simply, how much do I like it? Because that's the most important thing, right? Number 2, how easily accessible is this for the average person? You can get some really, really cool garb out there, but if it's not something that a normal person can get into, it's not really that great. 3, how unique is it? While it needs to be accessible, I don't want 50 of them on the field with me. I like to be a little unique. You guys know me well enough by now. So with those 3 things out of the way, let's start ranking. All right, so first up, we have the Lanchkanet garb. If you're unfamiliar with this, this is kind of a popular, if I recall, a late 15th, 16th century, not 100% sure, not super familiar with this, but 15th or 16th century German garb. I've got Pinterest pulled up here. We'll do this for each of these, but you can kind of go through and see some of the different ones. This is known by its giant floofy arms, and you also get things like this with the big poofy legs. Overall, I am not the biggest fan of Lanchkanet garb. I think it looks cool. I don't think it's that accessible. Like your normal person couldn't just make it. And it's really, really fancy, but like not, I don't know. I put Lanchkanet in a solid B. It's not something I would want to wear all the time. But if I had some, I would like it. Next up, we have fairy garb. So this is going to be very common at Renaissance fairs. Let's see if we can find anything. Yep, going to be categorized with big wings and going to have a lot of the leafy stuff. We went to the Ren Faire this past weekend, and there was, I like this one, a ton of fairy stuff. And fae, you'll see all sorts of different things. I do like the shoes. I like the aesthetic. It's not something that I would ever wear, but I'm okay with it. I think it looks pretty good. People can get really creative. I'm going to put this one in B as well. I think that it is above the Lanchkanet. I think it doesn't look as good, but it is much more accessible. And there are a lot of different things that people can do to make the fairy garb work well. So next, this one's going to get me in trouble. I think. Pirate garb. I hate pirate garb, man. It's too easy. It's too common. I don't like the hats. I don't like the look. Just overall, the Buccaneer, Captain Jack Sparrow thing, I just feel is so overdone. I'm just not the biggest fan. This is the one I use for the picture. Like, that guy looks good, so it's not a knock on him at all. Just, I'm not a fan of pirate garb, and I don't know, maybe it's just a little bit too modern, or it's just probably not even that. It's probably just too much of this, right? It's too much Jack Sparrow. So for me, pirate garb goes down in the bottom. Next up, we have Viking garb. I have a couple of different ones for this. I really like Viking garb. I think that it's clean, it's classy, it is easy for people to get into. The cuts and the tunics are very easy while being able to go and throw more complex coats and things over the top of it. I also like the Viking garb quite a bit for it's popular right now. So like shows like the Viking and different things like that are making this one more and more popular. I would also throw the Roos stuff in the same area as well. Overall, I really like the Viking stuff. I'm going to put the Vikings up here in S tier. I had another Viking. Where was my other Viking? We'll get to him. I'm not too worried about that. All right, next up, we have the post-apocalyptic look. I am going to throw that in A tier. You guys get to see my terrible, terrible spelling. I like post-apocalyptic. I think the costumes look really cool. I like the way that it's somewhat modern, but it looks rustic. Looks rustic. I also really enjoy the movies and the different books and things that come out of post-apocalyptic. I like this look a lot. If you're gonna do pirate, in my opinion, go and do like a post-apocalyptic pirate. Like that looks so cool. Yeah, I like post-apocalyptic stuff. Significantly more than what I'm going to do with the next one. We might skip ahead. Nope, it's right here. I can't stand steampunk. And I know a lot of people like steampunk. It's just not for me. I feel like I would rather do the post-apocalyptic, because the steampunk stuff, like, it's fine, but it's like a mix between 2 or 3 different eras and genres of history that I just don't care too much about. And then it is accessible, as in like you can just go and buy Nerf guns and paint them and stuff. So like there's some cool artwork that comes out of it. It's just not, I don't know. It's not for me. I don't like steampunk that much. Maybe it's just, I don't think it's overdone, but maybe it was when I was growing up, might be the issue. Now I don't see a ton of steampunk, but I see enough of it for me to not like it, if that makes sense. So I'm not a fan. I throw steampunk down here in D. Now, up here in S tier, probably my favorite one. I love monster garb. I love orc garb, which is what I have here. I think this stuff looks so cool. It makes every LARP better when people put this much effort into their different kits, right? I love this stuff. You can also got the green here too. That looks great. See, just good, just perfect. I love the armor. I love the fur. I love all of the little trinkets. I love the orc. The monster garb forces people to layer up because you don't want to see the skin and everything else. And so that is just a very good way to make your costumes look better. You can throw elves in here. I would put elves as monster garb as well. This is where you could also get into all of your, Minotaur and some of all of those. You get into all of your Minotaur garb, and you get into some of your more complex monster costumes. And I think those as a whole just make the game look so much better. I love monster garb. Next up, we have Tudor English garb, C for me. I don't think it looks that great. I'm not a big fan of the big cod pieces. I'm not a big fan of the capes. I'm not a big fan of just most of it. Tudor English stuff just doesn't do it for me. I like earlier garb than that, the Viking prehistoric or early medieval Tudor garb, and you can see it here. Like, it's just incredibly, incredibly ornate, which looks fine. But for what I do for combat LARP, not great. And if you want to do maybe for like high court and things like that, or a Ren Faire where you're walking around, the stuff looks great. I just don't like the look of it. And I also don't think it's accessible for a lot of newer players. So love it or hate it, Tudor for me is going to be thrown in that C tier. Next up, we have Greek and Roman garb. This goes into A for me. Greek and Roman garb looks good. It's very easy to put together. It's very accessible for new players. It's nice in the summertime. I like Greek and Roman garb quite a bit. It spans a massive amount of history, so you can do some pretty cool things with it. But it's super simple and super easy to put together while still looking very good. I like this garb. I think that I wish more people would do the Greek and Roman aesthetic, just because I think it looks good. You can even get real fancy with it, and it still looks great. Let me see if there's any other that I really like in through here. But like stuff like this is just super simple construction. Anybody can do this with a sewing machine. So I really like the Greek and Roman. So that's going to be an A tier for me. Next up, we have the Templar garb. This is that chainmail with the tabard look. I'll probably throw it in A. Let me see if I can find the picture that I'm thinking of here. There is a lot of different fantasy tropes that come off of this with the paladins and with the different things like that. When you search just plain Crusader, you get just a bunch of costumes, which I don't like that much. But when I think of, like this looks good, right? And this isn't necessarily Crusader, but it's that era in history. I like it quite a bit. I do think it is accessible for new players. They can go. It's just a couple of pieces of garb thrown over some chainmail, all of which you can get off the shelf pretty easily. You don't have to have a lot of this custom made. I think it looks clean. I like the look of it. Overall, this Crusader, middle of the Middle Ages, that 1300 to 1500 look, chainmail with a tabard over it, clean. I like it. Let's go back here. C tier for me. This is going to be your general Renaissance Fair Ranger, Lord of the Rings type of garb. This stuff is a dime a dozen, which is why I have it so low. Oh, why did it do that? This is fine. And it is just your normal Ren Faire, go off the shelf and buy it. I'm not the biggest fan of this look. Lots of leather, lots of, Legolas type of things like that. Lord of the Rings garb. Just not for me. It's a little too common. It is great for beginners. I think that this is the type of thing that just, if this is your first time at the Ren Faire and you're looking to buy a costume, this is where you should probably start. There are just a bunch of costumes that are very simple, very easy, that you can throw on and it will look good on whatever field you go to. Just for me, a little uninspiring. I'd rather spend my time and money going in other places. But just your general Lord of the Rings, going to be C tier for me. Next up, we have Asian themed, Mongolian themed gear. I'm a sucker for this. It's what I have on right now. I love Mongolian stuff. I love the samurai aesthetic. I rate this stuff incredibly high. The downside to it is it is kind of expensive. It isn't 100% accessible, but I like it, and that's what matters, and that's what we're doing with the list. You could also let's look up the samurai. This would all kind of fall into this area, fall into this category, just Eastern themed garb. You could also do Han China. There's a bunch of historical periods in here. I like this stuff. I think it makes games look really good. The costumes are always cool looking. I wish I would see more Asian, Eastern inspired garb at the Ren Faire. I'm also going to throw barbarians up here in the S tier. I love barbarian garb for a few different reasons. One, it's super easy to make. Two, anybody can just grab it and go. Three, it just looks good. People, if you just throw out some leather, you throw on some furs. I like this. It's one that I can get any new player in. It's one, right. You get big sword, you get not a lot of armor. It's pretty easy to make. I'm a sucker for the Conan and the barbarian style garb. So it's going solidly in the S tier for me. This is the other Viking one that I've got left over. So overall, we've got monster garb, Viking garb, Eastern themed garb, and then barbarian garb in S tier. In A tier, we have post-apocalyptic, Roman, and Crusader. In B tier, we have Fairy and Landsknecht. In C tier, we have Tudor and then generic Ren Faire, Lord of the Rings. And then in D tier, the worst of the worst, we have pirates and steampunk. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought of my tier list. What do you think should be higher? What do you think should be lower? Let me know if there are any other things that you think would be interesting to rank and you want to see my opinion on these things. I enjoy doing these. So until next time, I am St. Godric. See you later.